Hey, we're the Fords, and this is By Grace We Live. Welcome back to another week of By Grace We Live. We're so thankful that you guys are here and spending part of your week with us. Before we even jump into the episode, I just want to say, if you're not already following us, make sure you take a look at us on Instagram at By Grace We Live Pod and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. If you subscribe to our podcast, you have the option of instantly downloading your episode to your queue each week. So that's a good way to make sure you're catching all of our episodes. I figured I'd start the episode off by saying that because normally we say it at the end.
Yeah.
I also wanted to start this week a little differently by sharing the quote of the week to get us started. So I don't really know who this quote is by. It's anonymous, but I've seen it like on Pinterest and Instagram probably a million times. And it's sprinkle kindness around like confetti, which I know, it just warms my heart. And I have a story attached to this, and it goes a little something like this. So yesterday I was at the Dollar Tree, and the lady who was checking me out got a phone call as soon as I stepped up to the register. Someone called the store and was asking for something, and the lady was trying to tell her, I don't know if we have that in stock right now for sure, but I'm not able to go and check. I have a customer, and then there's only two of us working, and the other employee has a customer. And I could tell that the lady on the other line was just being rude, and she just said, ma'am, I'm really sorry, I'm not able to step away from the counter. And she was trying to be as polite as possible, but the lady hung up on her. And she said, this lady calls every week and asks if we have toothache medicine. And I was like, what? Which is just really random. It's a very random thing to call the Dollar Tree for.
Yeah, I feel like that's just something you can go to any store.
Yeah, and toothache medicine, isn't that just Advil? I don't know.
I think they have special gel. You can...
Oh, maybe that's it. Okay. So anyway, and I don't know. I could see that she was flustered and frustrated, and I can understand if this person calls every week and kind of is a jerk on the phone, that's super annoying. And it seems like they were short-staffed, so I'm sure she was already stressful. Well, as she hangs up the phone, a customer walks in and hands her a bag and just says, hey, I found it at the other Dollar Tree. Here you go. And the employee gets all excited, and she's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you came back and brought this, and blah blah blah. She's like, here, let me pay you. And the girl's like, no, I don't want your $1.25. Just please have it and enjoy. So the employee turns around, and I said, well, that was sweet. And she goes, she was just in here, and we have these Halloween trees, kind of like a Christmas tree, but you decorate it for Halloween, and we're out of stock, and they were looking for them, and I told them that I really wanted one too, and I was bummed that they were out of stock. So she went and found it at a different Dollar Tree and brought it back for this employee. And her mood obviously instantly got so much better. She was elated. She was so happy. And I teared up like a big sap because I could just see the joy that it brought her. And I said, well, that is really cool that she went out and got that for you. And she goes, oh, now I get to go find ornaments for my tree. And she was doing a little dance. It was so cute. And it just reminded me that even the smallest act of kindness really can change someone's day. I'm sure that the person who went out and bought it and brought it back didn't even realize how much it was going to mean to this employee, but it was very sweet. So I just wanted to start our episode off like that.
She was sprinkling some confetti.
She was sprinkling some confetti of kindness, and it was awesome, and I got to witness it. So in other news, Ryan, how was your week?
It was good.
Was it as good as this Dollar Tree employee?
I don't know. That's hard to top.
Yeah,
hard to top that.
I know.
No one gave me anything.
No.
I don't think. I don't know.
No.
Yeah. But no, it was a good week. Nothing too crazy.
Did you have a high or a low you'd like to share?
I should have came prepared for this. I actually thought about it earlier today, and
then just
something
forgot?
distracted me. And I don't remember what it was.
Oh, I don't know.
But do you have a high or low?
Yeah, I guess no news is good news.
Yeah.
I think my high would be the fact that we didn't have to clean up any dog bodily fluids this week. I think our dogs are on the mend. Thank you, Jesus.
Well, Ace's leg is
his leg we're still being very cautious and careful with, but other than that, he's good. And yeah, I'm like, nothing like stands out as like incredibly awesome. I mean, my parents came to visit during the week, which that's rare. So that was fun to like visit with them, have dinner with them. And I don't know. Gosh, I really should write these down. I really should start writing them down.
You should.
I don't like particularly remember a low either. I mean, it's been a long week. I'm very tired. I feel like I've been up late almost every night, and I'm like a grandma.
You're high. You could have.
Oh yeah, I started a little business.
Greater Good.
Yeah, it's called Greater Good Threads, and it's just secondhand clothes. So I go out and find really nice quality items at secondhand stores, and then sell them on Instagram.
Yeah.
So check it out if you're interested. If you're not already following me, yeah, Greater Good Threads. So that is a high, but that's also why I'm tired. I think because it's taken a lot of work that I didn't anticipate. But it's really fun.
In the flow of things.
Yeah, I have to get in the flow. I know that like once I establish a rhythm, it'll be good. But it's a lot to learn, and I feel like such a noob, like in every way possible. So. So that's fun. All right, moving on. Book club, new segment. Well, it's not a new segment.
Yeah, I was going to say. We've done this every time.
I have something new to share.
Yes.
Maybe that's what my brain meant.
Yep, I don't have any new.
You're still reading the two books you talked about last week. I'm reading a book called The Man Who Died Twice, and I don't remember the author's name, but he is the same author that wrote The Thursday Murder Club, which I talked about in our book club extraordinaire episode.
Richard Osman.
I knew his last name started with an O. I'm not too far into it because I fall asleep every time I read it at the end of the night.
Surprise.
I know. But I will say I forgot this. I think I might have mentioned when I read Thursday Murder Club, it's a lot of characters that you have to keep track of. So it can be a little overwhelming. But I also remembered as I'm reading this second book, almost every chapter is a different character's perspective. And so like it's just flipping back and forth a lot. And so it's difficult if you don't have like a huge chunk of time to devote to it, because if you stop in the middle of a chapter and then like a couple days later you pick it back up, it's like, wait, what am I reading again? You know, so that is a challenging part of it. And actually I was talking to someone today and they said that they had to, like, they gave up on the first book because it was just too confusing. So I just have to get to, like, I have to find a day where I have an hour or two to devote to it, because then it'll be really good, because it's like, yeah, once you get in the flow of it, it's easy. But so far it's pretty good.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. All right, well, moving on. Close our books. Well, do you want to talk about what you're sharing today?
So I'm going to share one of my poems and then talk about it.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's the topic.
Get your fingers ready to snap, everyone.
Well, should I just jump right in?
Yeah, well, first I'll do a little plug.
Go ahead.
If you're not already following him on Instagram, you can find him at Of Earth and Acorns. He has quite a few poems up there already. No, I'm not biased at all. I think they're phenomenal. Give him a follow.
Yeah, all the poetry you've read. To
yeah, I'm a novice when it comes to poetry, but
so yeah. I guess I'll just read the poem first, and then we can chat about it, I suppose.
Sounds good.
Cool. Okay, so this is the most recent one posted to my Instagram account. It's called The Scribe of Sorrows, and it goes a little something like this. taking my tears like ink, you pen my sorrows down, showing me you care to remember my account. My inkwell soul pours out till this pain runs me dry, and here the tragedy ends in a darkest night. But then I see your pen drip red with a fresh ink. In bloody script you write a new end, despite me. O scribe of my sorrows, you give this tale new life, an epilogue of hope where that night ends in light.
Do you want to tell them the psalm that it's kind of based off of?
So I was reading a psalm on one of my breaks at work. I think it was my lunch break. It is Psalm 56, verse 8, specifically verse 8, that kind of stood out to me, and it says, you keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book. In the psalm, David is, talking about, he's asking God for mercy and protection from his enemies, and just for God to keep him safe, even though people are like plotting against him and stuff. And then he talks about how God sees him and knows, and keeps record and account and track of all of these things. It's not like he is forgetful or anything of what he's been through and all of those kinds of things. But it struck me when I read that, how the image of, I pictured God at a desk, like Jesus sitting down at a desk writing my story out in, he's got his quill pen, little ink well, dipping it in, and then in a beautiful script writing, my story on an old wooden desk. And that's kind of the image that popped in my head. And from there I started trying to write something as far as a poem, to kind of capture that image and just kind of what I felt from all of it. And that the first thing I wrote down was, you take my tears like ink and you pen my sorrows down. That was kind of the first, the start of the poem, which is rare. I don't always write, when I write a poem, I don't always have the first line. Sometimes it's something, an ending, or something that ends up becoming something in the middle. It can it can go through a few different variations as I scribble all the different ideas and notes down. But I don't know, what I can kind of go in it stanza by stanza and
sure,
what I was thinking. Is that what I should do?
It's up to you. Okay. It's your poem. You share what you want.
So at the beginning, it says, taking my tears like ink, you pen my sorrows down, showing me you care to remember my account. And I mean, that line is pretty straightforward, or that stanza, where, God sees me, he knows me, and he remembers me. And I immediately thought of Jesus specifically, obviously, because we don't live in Old Testament times. So we know Jesus and we know what he did for us. And so it's often I connect that from the Psalms. And so that was kind of the perspective I was taking for this. And then it goes into, my inkwell soul pours out, this pain runs me dry, or till this pain runs me dry, and here the tragedy ends in a darkest night. And so it's my soul is, if you think of the inkwell, that's where the ink is, and Jesus is dipping his quill in there to write my story. But all of our stories without Jesus would be a tragedy, and it would end in a dark night. And so that's where it's kind of that, hopeless,
perspective
of me, like I can't, I'm gonna run dry. It's gonna end. My life will end in a dark night.
Right.
But then the next stanza is where it takes a turn. But then I see your pen drip red with a fresh ink. In bloody script you write a new end despite me. And so that's obviously Jesus, him dying on the cross for us and his forgiveness. And I wanted to keep with this idea of him writing a story and penning something. And so that's where I say drip red with a fresh ink. Hope, like, because if I want the reader to know it's Jesus, his blood, his sacrifice,
and he's still writing
our story.
Yeah.
He takes the rest of my story. He keeps writing.
Yeah.
What I think is the end of the story, he actually is like, no, there's more to this.
Yeah.
It's just not your power. Your ink isn't the thing that's gonna supply the ending. And then I say, in bloody script you write a new end despite me. And I say bloody again I want the reader to know, obviously, that I'm talking about Jesus, his sacrifice and his blood. And because sometimes I feel like it's a thin line to straddle when you're trying to, I don't want to say too much.
Yeah.
And then like overburden the reader with like a bunch of description when it's like, I know, obviously what you're talking about, but then I also don't want to be so ambiguous to where it's confusing.
Yeah.
So I try to, without being too like specific and on the nose, I try to find other ways. Like I used bloody as a descriptive word instead of a noun, like his blood.
Yeah.
And so that's obviously where it takes the turn. In bloody script you write a new end despite me. And just to say that, like, despite my failings, despite my misgivings, despite the fact that I ran out, I ran dry, despite all that, Jesus still finishes our story with hope. And then the last stanza, "Oh, scribe of my sorrows, you give this tale new life, an epilogue of hope where that night ends in light." And that's what I thought of initially, that phrase, scribe of my sorrows, was actually the first thing that popped in my head when I read the verse. You keep track of all my sorrows, and you have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book. That Jesus is a scribe, and he's a scribe of my sorrows. And it's just, this is like the hopeful end to the poem, that you give this tale new life. It's an epilogue of hope, again, fitting in with the whole story. Like, that's why I said an epilogue, where that night ends in light. And again, I say where that night ends in light because it's a callback to the second stanza where I say, "In here the tragedy ends in the darkest night."
Yeah.
But it actually ends in light.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much the rundown, if you will.
I like your attention to detail all throughout it.
Well, I try to like be intentional. I mean, I think that's one thing with poetry that I try to be is intentional with the word, because you only have so many words and they have to fit within I write pretty much free form. I mean, sometimes I make up a form, like this one I think has the same number of syllables in every line, and the second and fourth line have like a half rhyme. I forget I don't think it's called a half rhyme. Whatever it is when it's like it kind of, there is I can't remember what the term is, but like where it's not a perfect rhyme, like cut and butt.
Yeah.
Those rhymes.
Those are perfect rhymes.
Yeah. But
I love all the words. You could have picked cut and butt. Cut and nut.
Yeah.
Nut and butt. Okay. Anyway.
But yeah, so I kind of, after I wrote that first stanza, that's where I was like, I like how this is going. Because the beginning of it's kind of heavy. I don't actually often write rhyming poetry.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do, but this one I felt like it just worked with that like subtle rhyme, that half rhyme, and it kind of helped the flow and alleviate some of the heaviness of the first couple stanzas. But
I really like. Can I share what I?
Yeah,
really
go
like?
ahead.
My favorite part is "But Then." It's the third stanza, or is that
The third stanza? Yeah.
That starts with "But then," and then you talk about like his blood pouring out for us. That his blood pouring out for us leads to redemption. But obviously you say it in such an eloquent way that fits in with the theme of your poem, and how we have a new ending of our story despite ourselves.
Yeah.
Which I just think is a beautiful picture of God's pursuit of us, and the fact that like we are in a relationship with him not because of anything we could ever do, but because of his grace. And we obviously love talking about God's grace.
Yeah.
So I really like that part. And it baffles me how you can come up with a poem about a story like a scribe and relate it to like the redemption that we have in Jesus.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
That's my critique.
Oh.
Also, there's too many syllables in line 5. No, I'm just kidding.
I think I'm pretty sure they all have the same number. I can't remember.
I'm sure they
now.
do. I made that up out of my butt, which also rhymes with cut.
There you go. You're a poet.
Yeah, okay. You don't want me writing poetry.
But yeah.
What is your favorite part about it?
That's a good question. I think just the whole concept of it. After I got done with it, I was really just happy with the way it turned out and just the concept. Because sometimes I feel like I think whenever anyone creates anything, there's always people. Whenever you're critiquing your own creative work, there's always like you're seeing more than more flaws than anyone else, most likely. And not that this is a perfect poem by any means. I mean, I'm not a professional poet in any capacity. I haven't gone to school for this kind of thing. But this one in particular just really came together in a way. And I attribute a lot of it to God and the Holy Spirit, and most of what I write is inspired by God, and I don't know. It's hard to pick out one thing. I think the name, really, the Scribe of Sorrows, because that's kind of what kicked off the rest of the poem.
Yeah.
Because because that to me kind of put the image, like the story in my head.
In your head, yeah.
Of Jesus as a scribe writing my story, keeping account of it, and then taking it upon himself to finish it.
I remember when you came and read it to me, I was like, man, this is a downer. Like when you started, I was like, where is this going? Are you okay? Like, I think I did ask you that.
Well, because it's called The Scribe of Sorrows.
Yeah, I was like, are you okay? Is there something you want to talk about?
Yeah.
But then I actually did cry when you, at the end, like when it turned and it changed, because it is like, our stories are filled with hopelessness and brokenness without
Jesus,
Christ. Yeah. But like that hope that we have in him is very evident in this poem. So hopefully those who are listening, when they listen to you, felt that hope, Yeah. And that fresh reminder.
That's the goal.
Yeah. Of life and new life that we have in him.
Yeah. So that's my poem, The Scribe of Sorrows.
Scribe of Sorrows.
Yeah.
For more, again, check them out on Of Earth and Acorns.
Yep. That's where I am. I haven't posted one in a while, though.
No,
which
you haven't.
I need.
This was from July 2nd.
I know. It's been a hot minute. But I haven't written
We're only
much.
a little busy,
Yeah.
It's okay.
I haven't written much, unfortunately, recently, but
Yeah.
I hope to. But a lot of it just comes from inspiration. I'm not always like, I know a lot of writers and a lot of people who write, they're always like,
just do it.
you should be writing even if it's garbage.
Yeah.
And that's, I agree with their sentiment, and it's just hard when it's not like, you know.
I think you do best when you feel inspired by something.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, and you get very like frustrated, annoyed if you're just gonna sit there and nothing's coming. Like you're like, what's the point? I'm not gonna sit here and keep wasting my time.
I mean,
so.
I think it's one of those things where, when I'm paying attention, I think that's the biggest key for me, is just because sometimes inspiration can come in the weirdest places.
Right.
Like one poem I wrote, I think it's the poem I posted previous. I was inspired from a Stephen King book.
Right.
And it's about God.
Yeah.
And the
you
light.
were inspired to write something about God from Stephen King.
Yeah.
His book's
Yeah.
not about God.
No, yeah. And so it's like it's that kind of stuff where it's like, I think God is speaking and there's so much beauty everywhere.
Yeah.
And
If we just pay attention.
Right. It's like I think sometimes we feel like we almost put God in a box where it's like, oh, he can't speak through a Stephen King novel. And I'm not saying that it's like a holy, but it's just God used it to open my eyes to something else. And it was The Gunslinger, by the way, and that was the book.
It's a really good poem that you wrote too.
Yeah. I liked it, but it's pretty short. It's nothing crazy, but
Yeah.
although I don't really write too long of poems.
Then they would be books.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are. Like, what are they called if they're like long? Is there
I guess depends. I mean, I'm not very. I don't know all the names. I know. I mean, there's like epic poems.
That's what I was wondering.
That are very long and story like.
Yeah.
That there's.
You write epic poems. You don't write epic.
Oh, okay.
Epics.
Okay.
Did you see what I did there?
I did, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
You write
good.
poems that are epic. You don't.
right.
I'm just kidding. I don't need to explain it.
Yeah.
Guys, when I get tired, I get very loopy.
Little loopy.
So we probably shouldn't go on for much longer. I might regret what comes out of my mouth.
But,
well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Yep. Anytime.
Yeah.
I
And
guess.
if you enjoyed this, let us know. Find us on Instagram. Leave a comment wherever you're listening and give us your feedback.
Yeah.
Only if it's good, though. If you're going to
Yeah, I
be
don't know if
mean to my
heart can take
husband,
it.
don't do
I'm
it.
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Just keep your comments to yourself. No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, I'm not like I said. I recognize that I am a amateur. I'm not. I haven't studied. I've read one book on poetry. I have a couple others that I need to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And
You mean like on writing poetry?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
And,
you read poetry all the time.
It was a really good book, actually.
What was it called?
The
So
poetry
good.
something poetry handbook. The poet. Yeah, I can't remember. It was by Ted Kooser, I think. Wait,
That's
no,
funny.
that's not right.
Yeah, I was gonna say you remember the author, but you can't remember the name.
Oh no, it is Ted Kooser.
Look at you go.
Yeah, the Poetry Home Repair Manual, practical advice for beginning poets.
Nice.
And it was really good. I actually really liked it. It was one of those things where when I read it, it was very encouraging because a lot of what he was writing about was like how I already felt about a lot of it was already about like the way I approached or how I felt about poetry.
So you really connected.
And
to
yeah,
what he
and
said.
it kind of affirmed some things
Yeah.
in me and the way I did things. Obviously there was other stuff that I was like I didn't think about and I was like, "Oh, I should think about that." And when I'm writing and
That's called learning.
Yeah.
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 That's cool.
So, it was really good. I mean, I would highly recommend it to anyone interested in poetry in general, not just
Writing.
like not necessarily writing poetry, but if you're into, it's not going to explain like this is what a haiku is, or this is what a, it's not going to explain the types of, or a sonnet, but it's more of like, well, practical advice.
Yeah.
Like how you should think about
I see.
how you should approach writing. And I think it could help just get into the mind of
The poets that you read.
Yeah, so you can kind of have an understanding. Because sometimes it's hard to... I mean, I get it. Poetry's can be confusing.
I feel like sometimes I'm not smart enough for it.
I don't think it's that. I just think sometimes, especially if you don't read poetry often, it can be really hard to figure out what's the point.
Yeah.
Like, is the point just beautiful words? Or are they actually trying to paint a picture, or are they trying to make you feel a certain way? Are they trying to tell you a story or tell you something?
And usually you don't know that. The author knows that.
Yeah, you don't always know it. So that's what I mean. If you've read more poetry, you can probably pick up on those things more.
Yeah.
Like, I can kind of get sometimes. I'm still like, when I read, I'm like, I don't understand what this person is saying.
Well, that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us for another week of By Grace We Live. And we'll catch you next time, folks.